From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Saved from a possible death trap.
I had said that I felt like I was surrounded by a bounty of heavenly hosts.
See the rescue efforts it took to save a Missouri farmer after a grain bin accident. USDA has new predictions for both corn and soybean yields, but it's cotton that's taking center stage.
We had a massive abandonment in Texas.
We break down the numbers in the latest supply-demand report right now on AgDay. Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. High heat and drought means USDA had to make some adjustments in its first survey-based report of the season. Hardest hit, cotton, with a production estimate now the lowest since the 2009 growing season. Let's get straight to the numbers. This year's cotton crop now expected to be 846 pounds per harvested acre. That's down more than 24 pounds from July, with historically high abandonment in the Southwest, which we've been telling you about. Now that puts production at 12.6 million bales, nearly 3 million bales lower than last month. New crop ending stocks are 600,000 bales lower and the lowest stock-to-use ratio since 1924-1925. Cotton trading limit up after the report came out.
USDA reflected what we suspected about the Southern Plains with the drought down there. We had a massive abandonment in Texas, planted acreage versus harvested. On the production side of things, that dropped production from 7.7 million bales for that state last year to 2.9 million this year. That's a huge drop.
USDA also lowered yield for corn to 175.4 versus its July estimate of 177, and it lowered production by 146 million bushels. Soybean yields were raised to just shy of 52 bushels per acre. That's up from 51.5. Production raised by 26 million bushels, offset by a 300,000 acre drop in harvested acreage. So ending stocks on corn, well, they're now forecast at 1.38 billion bushels. That's lower than last month. Soybean stocks were raised slightly to 245 million bushels, and wheat ending stocks are lowered at 610 million bushels, down nearly 30 million from a month ago. AgDay's Michelle Rook joins us now with a closer look at what these latest USDA numbers mean.
Joining us to analyze the report, Alan Brugler with Brugler Marketing. And Alan, let's talk about this lower corn yield, 1.6 bushels per acre. Were you surprised, and will we see further decreases in the September report? A lot of the heat came after August 1st.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a potential for that. We have to remember that there's a 2 bushel plus gain year over year. That is the trend line gain in corn yields. So equivalent conditions will tend to give you a little higher yield the next year than they did the previous year. That's agronomy, that's varieties, it's better management practices, et cetera. But having said that, our Brugler 500 crop condition rating index, which is tied to USDA's, suggests that the best fit yield right now would be about 175. USDA didn't quite go that low today.
As far as soybeans, we did see bigger yield than expected. Will that go down next month, do you think?
My bias would be that it would decline a little bit, but again, it's going to depend on the rains in the next couple of weeks here. Beans are a function of August, and the weather models have been having some trouble deciding how much rain we're actually going to get. I think 51 or 51 and a half bushels is probably a reasonable number based on what we know today.
All right, thanks for joining us. Alan Brugler with Brugler Marketing. More analysis later on the show.
And we'll have to see how these numbers compare as the Pro Farmer Crop Tour heads out into the fields. That starts Monday, August 22nd. That's when scouts will fan out across the Corn Belt to measure this year's corn and soybean fields. This is the 30th year for the event. If you would like to take part, check out profarmer.com/register. Areas in the west battling drought will see more relief this week. Meteorologist Matt Yurosavik has an update.
Yeah, Clinton, that is right. We've got more rain on the way, especially in the west. More of the monsoon rains continuing pretty much every afternoon. Taking a look at our precipitation outlook, you can see that area highlighted in green over the west. And that's where we're going to be seeing most of the precipitation this week. Below normal in parts of the upper Midwest and Great Lakes, but then more rainfall still expected across the southeast and parts of the mid-Atlantic coast as well. Now, as we head through this Monday, still going to be looking at those upper lows in the west, creating those shower chances. And that's, again, going to continue pretty much every day this week. Another system moving into the northern plains. And then if you look towards the east coast, while high pressure in control in the middle of the country, staying very warm, the lows over the east coast going to create more chances for rain. That's going to continue through Monday and even into Tuesday before things will dry out. And taking a look at the pattern, it's going to continue to be warm across the middle of the country. That ridge not going anywhere, but it will begin to break down as we head towards the second half of the week, and that is going to create some more shower chances by next weekend. And this is a great sight to see first thing in the morning. Kara Hart sharing this stunning sunrise in eastern North Dakota with us. I'll have more on your forecast coming up.
All right, thanks, Matt. Wheat from Ukraine is also now leaving Black Sea ports. Turkey's defense ministry reporting 2 more ships left on Friday. One includes the first wheat shipment under the new export deal. A total of 14 ships have now departed from Ukraine over the past 2 weeks. It follows a deal with Russia to allow the resumption of grain exports from Ukraine's Black Sea ports. Enforcement of a Massachusetts pork law that was due to go into effect today is getting delayed. A U.S. federal judge in the state signing a court order approving an agreement to delay enforcement of the law known as Question 3. It would have banned the sale of pork that comes from animals not housed according to state housing standards. Now, a coalition led by the National Pork Producers Council along with the National Restaurant Association and several New England restaurant and hospitality associations filed suit against that law. MPPC saying it wants to preserve the rights of pig farmers to raise hogs in a way that is best for their animals. Now, the law was a 2016 Massachusetts ballot initiative. It's similar to California's Proposition 12, which is currently being reviewed by the Supreme Court. USDA's latest corn yield prediction came in lower than the trade expected, but soybeans were higher. Michelle Rook joins us next in analysis for a closer look. And later, we're headed back to Missouri to find out how emergency crews were able to save a farmer's life after he was trapped in a grain bin. A story of survival in the country.
Ag Day is brought to you by Endzone from Farm Shop MFG, which allows you to rehydrate your soybeans from 10 to 13%. On a 20,000 bushel bin, that's an extra semi-load added to your bottom line. Order your Endzone fan by August 15th and receive 13% off.
It was a big day for cotton on Friday after the release of the latest supply and demand report from the USDA, but corn also managed to claw back into positive territory. Michelle Rook is back with what to watch in the week ahead.
Joining us with market analysis, Darren Fry with Water Street Solutions. Friday WASDE report, we did see soybeans close higher, even though we had a little bit higher yield in ending stocks. Can we build on that?
I think we can. You know, I was really surprised to see the USDA jump the yield so much. But then when we saw the action was so negative and we started coming off those lows to close higher, man, that was good action. And we saw corn didn't want any part of the downside. And, you know, it wasn't a bearish ending stocks number really for any of these commodities. I mean, 245 on beans and lowering the corn a little bit. It's not bearish. I mean, what we really got to focus on is what demand is going forward. And right now with the meal market and some of these spreads we see, you know, beans could have more in them to the upside.
Yeah, let's talk about that because meal and soybean oil have both been very strong, but especially the meal market. We've got the forward spreads working. What does that say about the market, and how much higher do you think soybeans could go here?
Well, you know, if we get above 1460 on soybeans, they're going to break out to the upside, and that will challenge the old highs in place, which is really unbelievable as we move into harvest. That's kind of a, you know, a counter seasonal trend. But we've seen cotton break out for higher. We know that bean oil is breaking out for higher. We got crude oil that's turning up. And I really think that the meal spreads that have been on fire for 2 or 3 weeks is saying that there's something going on there that's supporting meal. And meal is 81% of the beans. So I don't know how a guy can get bearish beans now until you see the meal spread soften and meal roll over. And so far, it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
So we saw about 1.5 bushels lost in terms of corn yield on Friday and a little lower ending stocks. But the funds have not been big participants yet in this corn market. Will they be, or what will it take to get them back in here to really push this market farther?
That's a great question. You know, I think they're looking at what the inflationary numbers do, CPI, PPI, what the Fed's posture is. The Feds have been pretty hawkish, but are they going to be more dovish? We've seen strong job numbers, but there is this overarching thinking around the market that maybe with the stock market leading us higher, we're more a risk on now instead of risk off. And maybe that tailwind is starting to blow. And so we could see the funds come back in here and really start to support all these markets.
Thanks so much for joining us, Darren Fry, Water Street Solutions. More AgDay coming up.
For marketing strategy specific to your operation, contact Water Street Solutions at 866-249-2528 or online at www.waterstreet.org. Technology Days is back. August 25th through the 27th. Come see for yourself why this annual event draws thousands of farmers to Atlanta, Indiana. Learn more and register today at bexhybrids.com/field shows.
An unprecedented drought is continuing to impact nearly half of the European continent. It is damaging farm economies and forcing water restrictions. Water levels are falling in major rivers such as the Danube, the Rhine, and the Po. In fact, there hasn't been significant rainfall for almost 2 months in Western, Central, and Southern Europe. The government in Britain officially declared a drought across southern and central England on Friday amid one of the driest summers on record. Meteorologist Matt Yurosavik joining us here. And Matt, as we start with our own drought monitor here back at home, we have seen some improvements here and we could see more in the week ahead.
Definitely we could. We've seen a lot of rain in parts of the southwest and we've seen some improvements there. They're still expecting that to continue at least over the next few weeks. And areas in the southwest, again, starting to see some of that drought relief after a couple months of being an extreme to exceptional drought. Still parts of Texas, though, dealing with a lot of that. And we're not going to see very much rainfall, especially in southern Texas heading through this week. So likely see those drought conditions expanding there, but more relief coming for even parts of California, Nevada, and Utah into this week. Even some of the upper Midwest going to see some of that rainfall, and parts of the southeast that are abnormally dry could get more of that rain as well. Here's a look at the precipitation. We looked at this a little bit ago. More rainfall expected across the East Coast, even down into parts of Florida. Below normal, though, in the upper Great Lakes there, northern Midwest, and then out in the west, still dealing with a lot of rainfall there. It is monsoon season. That's going to continue, especially with the pattern that we've got in place right now. And here's a look at the precipitation forecast heading through this week. Storm system coming out of the central part of the country, bringing a lot more rain. Tropical rains going on there in the south and east, and then more rainfall back across the west. Again, some heavier rain possible as we head through this week. So here's a look at the temperatures this week. Below normal in the east, above normal right through the middle of the country, and could be dealing with higher heat there in the northwest before that ridge starts to break down as we head through the second half of the week. And you can see that right here with this jet stream. Very hot in the west, still creating the chance for some storms, but then that ridge starts to break down heading through the end of the week, and we'll continue to see that and more chances for showers, especially heading into next week. Still going to be dealing with heat next week in the west, but below normal across a good portion of the country, which could also create some more shower chances, and we'll continue to track that right here on Ag Day. That's a look around the country. Now let's take a look at the weather where you live. Lebanon, Pennsylvania, mild with showers likely, a high near 77 degrees. Bowman, North Dakota, mostly sunny with evening thunderstorms possible, a high near 85. And Kingman, Arizona, afternoon scattered showers and thunderstorms, a high near 89 degrees.
Ag Day is brought to you by MetLife Investment Management's Agricultural Finance Group. MetLife Investment Management is positioned to help you grow your business with a competitive farm, ranch, and agribusiness loan. To learn more, visit investments.metlife.com/agriculture.
Records continue to be broken in the used equipment market. Machinery Pete has details on some recent auctions that brought in some pretty big prices.
The most amazing things I've seen sold at auction recently? How much time you got, folks? Let's start off with an online farm auction a week ago today, last Monday, in Sublette, Illinois by our friends at Sullivan Auctioneers. Now they had a pair of 2010 John Deere 8225R two-wheel drive models, which don't see those very often. It had 1,701 and 1,433 hours on it. And folks, they sold for $199,000 and $190,000. Just incredible. Blew away the previous record high auction price on a deer 8225R, which all the way back the week before Thanksgiving of 2013, so almost 9 years ago. That was another 2010 model, but that one only had just over 600 hours on it, brought 175. Now, we could also talk about a sale a week ago Friday in Bondul, Wisconsin, where this 1957 McCormick 28-inch threshing machine sold. So it was a very late model McCormick threshing machine, and it went for $20,000. A guy from Iowa bought it. Very heated bidding on that, so that was pretty cool. And let's wrap up with another record auction price on a tractor a week ago Saturday in Sabetha, Kansas, where this 2006 John Deere 7820, 2,629 hours on it, sold for $132,000. Now that, folks, was $25,000 over the previous record high of $107,000 from over 10 years ago.
All right, thanks, Pete. Grain bin entrapments are far too common. Up next, we'll see how emergency officials rescued a Missouri man, his story of survival in the country.
Registration is open for the 2022 Pro Farmer Crop Tour. Join our team as we gain insight on the 2022 growing season in person or online. Visit profarmercroptour.com/register to select the stop nearest you.
Last week, we brought you the story of a Missouri farmer trapped inside a grain bin with help on the way to try to get him out. This morning, we pick up that story. Farm Journal's Tyne Morgan reports on how an entire group of people worked to rescue Dennis Schneider as we continue our special series, Close Calls, Stories of Survival.
As Schneider stayed calm, Buford and his team outside came up with a plan to get the pressure off Dennis by cutting holes in the bin.
Well, we cut the first one right here and thinking that would get the pressure off of him. Well, it put more pressure because the corn was wanting to slide in behind, so it was actually, he really struggled at the time.
Bending me over and bending
Yes.
me up more, so.
So the firefighters pivoted quickly, knowing they would need to cut even more holes.
When we needed to close it, we just shut it. And then we would go to the other one and they would tell us from up on top which hole to go to.
There hadn't been any training to do that, but Buford says they just assessed the situation and searched for solutions to get the pressure off Schneider.
We actually called in to the lumberyard and had him cut some half-inch plywood, and we used that to put around Dennis to help too as we were doing this.
After 2.5 hours of trying to rescue him, finally, Schneider was free.
He came out of the bin and just as calm as he is right now.
This was all full of corn already, so I just slid all the way out to the ground out here and came out and just looked around at everybody around. And I had said that I felt like I was surrounded by a bounty of heavenly hosts.
It wasn't just a handful of volunteer firefighters and first responders that worked tirelessly to rescue him. There was an entire team.
Firefighters alone, I would say there was probably 50 to 55 firefighters here. All volunteer. The people were amazing. This is probably a half-mile, quarter-mile driveway. Quarter to half-mile, it was packed.
The weeks after Schneider was rescued, Buford and others played back the situation countless times in their mind. And Buford says they all agreed.
I don't think we could have changed anything on this one. I mean, I think everything turned out the way it was supposed to be.
In a scary situation where so much could have gone wrong, that day, everything seemed to go right.
And they had to decide how deep I was, how low that hole had to be to free me up. They had that right. The neighbors brought loaders over. I had a skid loader close so they could push the corn out of the way so it kept flowing away. No, they just did a super job.
To Buford, it wasn't coincidence how much went right. He thinks Schneider survived for a reason.
Because he can share his story. There's not many people that you do this. How many are lucky enough to be able to do that?
Both have now made it their mission to share their story.
And I told my younger son, Dustin, I said, why don't you come along and you can correct my mistakes and share with them how you felt. And he said to me, Dad, I'm trying to forget it.
While some try to forget, Buford and Schneider will forever remember that December day, a close call that's now a story of survival.
All right, thanks, Tyne. And we'll bring you more special reports on this important topic as we go through harvest. That's going to wrap us up. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day in farm country.